Hello and welcome to Lessons Learnt. I'm Sherry, and today for your Wednesday video, we're going to have a little introduction to our next sew along. I've been mentioning it a little bit at a time throughout my videos recently, but I wanted to show you today that this is what you're going to need, your 4 Jolly Bar books. We're also going to get into what else you're going to need for this sew along. It will last approximately 6 weeks. Today is just a video of introduction. We're not going to do any sewing this week, but next week we will. So the Jolly Bar books are made by Fat Quarter Shop. It's Sew Emma is their publishing company, and you will need all 4 of these. They come in volumes, volume 1 through 4. They're very, very simple patterns that are designed to use with the Fat Quarter Shop's pre-cut called Jolly Bars. And Jolly Bars are half of a layer cake, a 5x10. You do not have to use Jolly Bars to make this quilt. You can use anything you want to use out of your stash. You could use a couple of Jolly Bars, a layer cake. You could use fat quarters. You could use fat quarters from your stash, scraps from your stash. There's many, many options. This is a row quilt. So the patterns for the blocks are taken from these books. But the quilt pattern itself is of my design, and it is a row quilt, as I mentioned. There will be 5 rows to this quilt, and each row will have a different number, varying numbers of blocks. Each row will be the same block. So I will be choosing, I have already chosen blocks out of these books to create my rows. I have also calculated sashing between the blocks. Some of the patterns in the Jolly Bar books don't have any sashing. They're one block after the other sewn together. My design will have a sashing between the blocks. Some of the sashings are quite wide, so there's going to be some negative space there, but don't worry about that because that will just make your blocks pop off of your background. It is sort of a mystery. Each week I will give you a block and how many blocks to make, and then you will construct that row, and then the next week you'll just have to wait and see what the block will be, and then you'll make your row out of that. So each week upcoming I will have a short tutorial on how to make those blocks, and you will need the books to get the measurements correct. So just like we did with the Scrappy Celebration pattern, I didn't show you the measurements of the blocks, so it's the same way, and that's why you need all 4 of these books. The quilt will be 70 inches wide once it's all put together without borders. So it will be a nice size, at least a twin or a large throw size. So that kind of gives you an idea of what size we're going for. You will need at least 4 yards of background. So you probably could get away with less than that. I wouldn't risk it. A lot of quilts about that size use about 3 to 3.5 yards of background. I would get a solid 4, or if you don't have that already, make sure you use something that you can get more of. Now let's talk about fabric choices for it. I have chosen to use a Fat Quarter bundle, and this is a K-Facet light Fat Quarter bundle, if you will. He usually has, very colorful fabrics. All of his bundles and pre-cuts and all of that are very, very high volume, like this, or like this. See there? But this particular bundle, most of them are kind of light. There's a lot of black and white in there. And this is what I'm going to make my blocks out of. However, I'm going to use black as my background. So my blocks are really going to pop off. Look at this one. really going to pop off of the black. You don't have to use a dark background. You can use a white background, cream, a color of your choice, navy, whatever you want to use, depending on, you know, what kind of look you want. So some things I think of too would be cool is if you did a 2-color quilt, like a light background and then one color, like red, a red and white quilt, a navy and white quilt, a green and white quilt. That would be cool. Just a real simplistic row quilt. You could also do a softer quilt. You could use some Lori Holt and, you know, use a low volume background, like a cream with a little X or a little flower or a little heart or star or whatever you have enough of in a light background. That would make a really vintagey looking quilt. I'm thinking that this 20 piece will be plenty. I'll probably have plenty left over. That's 5 yards of fabric. I don't really need 5 yards of fabric for this. So if you want to just pull from your stash, you don't have to use a line. You can pull like you could pull all prints of one color even. You know, like all your blues, all your reds, all your greens with all your prints. That would be pretty. Maybe with a contrasting background. So the options are really limitless for this quilt. You can do it just about any way you want to do it. But these 20 fat quarters should be way enough, plenty, for this project. I think if you wanted to use a layer cake, you could use a layer cake or 2 Jolly Bars if you happen to have Jolly Bars, 2 that are similar or the same. Maybe 1 Vegas strip pack would do it. I have a feeling maybe it would. Yeah, just use your scraps. Just keep pulling scraps. Make it scrappy. You could use a gray background and make it scrappy. That would look very vintagey as well. So don't worry too much about what color combination to do, because I think this quilt, it's just going to lend itself to just about anything you have on hand. So just make sure your background is something that's going to contrast well with the prints or the colors that you choose for your blocks. So the videos, today's an introduction video. You can get your books together, find them, buy them, borrow them, whatever you have to do to get your books. And then get your fabrics together, get a plan together for what kind of color scheme you want to do, and make sure you have enough for that. And then, yeah, I think the next 5 videos will simply be some simple tutorials of the block that is in the book. So whatever block we're doing that week, I'll have a video on it. You will. This is why you have to have the book. I can't give you the measurements. So I will make the blocks and I'll show you that, and I'll do my normal tips and tricks along the way in constructing those. Your blocks will go together in one long row with sashing in between. A lot of the patterns in the Jolly Bar books do not have it like that. They have blocks right next to each other. Ours will have some sashing. We're just borrowing some of the block designs in here. So you'll have rows that have 3, 5, or 6 blocks in them, and the blocks are so simple you will be able to get those done each row in a week. And then I'll have a final video for the construction of the sashing in between the rows. So once you get a couple of rows done, do not hook them together, because we'll be doing that at the end. And what else was I going to say about that? I think that was it. So yeah, we'll have that concluding video on putting those together. So something kind of different with a row quilt, at least with this one, is that You know, on the last sew along, I told you how I like to do 4 patches. Like if you have 2 rows and you can do 4 patches and then put them together, it's a lot easier because you don't have to do that long span. This is one of those patterns you're not going to be able to do that with. We will be constructing entire rows from one side to the other. So, and putting sashing in between. So that's what you'll get done in a week's time. So it's going to go fast. I think it's going to go fast, and it's easy and it's fun, and it'll be of your own design pretty much, the way you use your fabrics. So lots and lots of fun, just like we had with the Scrappy Celebrations. That was a lot of fun, and I'm still getting some photos in from that and seeing some very different ones than, you know, I even showed you in the little quilt show that we had. So we will hopefully have enough participating in this sew along as well, and have a nice little quilt show for it too. So let's get ready. It's the Jolly Book, I'm calling it the Jolly Book Sampler Row Quilt. Jolly Book Sampler, because we're taking samplings from each of the books and we're making a row quilt. So Jolly Book Sampler Row Quilt. Could I have made that any more complicated? It's really hard to know what to name a quilt, but this kind of describes what it is, and this is what it's going to be. So get your books out, get ready, get your fabrics out. I will see you back here next Wednesday for that first row. So get ready to start cutting some fabric next week. I'll have a little tutorial for you on the first row, and I'll give you a hint. It's going to have 6 blocks with sashings of 3 inches in between. So little sneaky hint there. It is a mystery, so each week you won't know what we're going to do until you see the video. So that's part of the fun. And don't worry about, you know, your fabrics and how they're going to go together. It'll all be fine. All right, let's get going. I'll see you soon. Bye.